one group that's often neglected here, but definitely shouldn't be, in my opinion, is the family member, the caregiver, as it's often called. Now, that person can be variably involved in how much they have to do, depending on lots of individual circumstances. But it's often surprised me. We did a little bit of research here in Leicester where we found that caregivers' anxiety, for example, was as high, sometimes higher, than the person with cancer in the longer term. So it just emphasised to me that this is an area I want to ask you about. Should we be doing more for family members? And if so, how can we organise things? Because we're already patchily covering the needs of patients, but we shouldn't ignore their family member too. Or,
yeah,
what do you think?
I think that's true. I think that the care and support that you get from partners, family, I mean they go through cancer as well.
Yes.
They have a different experience. I don't think it's any better, any worse. It's different. What strikes me is that the person who gets the diagnosis gets to wear the cancer hat. And the person who's sitting in the chair next to them when that diagnosis is given never gets the cancer hat.
Yes.
So they are almost invisible.
It's relatively passive for them, passive in the sense that things are being even more done to their family.
Yeah.
And they're relatively powerless to influence the process.
Yeah, and that's true, because they're an observer. They don't have an active part in the diagnosis and in the treatment.
And sometimes, when they try to take back control and give their input, it's not always welcome.
No, that's right. That's true. And I think lots of, I think lots of relationships go through, and all relationships go through tough times. I think going through a long-term illness, going through cancer, going through cancer treatment, I think that can really take its toll on any relationship, whether or not that's a parent-child or between two partners. It changes the relationship, and I think some of us are able to adapt and to accept that change happens, but some of us aren't, and sometimes relationships fall apart. Sometimes they're changed forever, sometimes in a good way, sometimes in a bad way, and you're not going to know that until you're at that point. But I do think that there needs to be more recognition. I don't have a solution. I don't know what can be done for the people who surrounded me, when I was going through treatment.
One option is to allow them to have their own outlet. Now that can be like in a cancer patient's example, the outlet might be cancer related, like a cancer related group, or separate, something they do that's not linked with cancer, but they have a shared experience or goal themselves. And your case is really highlighting all of those. But think about it from the family member's point of view. Maybe they should be offered something similar, like a group in the hospital or in the community where they can meet with other relatives. But similarly, some other shared experience that's not cancer related that they could go and do that just help them feel good about life and help them feel life's carrying on and still positive. And it's not just about I'm having to give all of my time to look after my partner who's now ill and things aren't going quite as well. I know it's very complicated. Sometimes offering something, even a small thing, can be quite powerful compared to offering nothing at all. And it just seems in this area, the standard is really nothing at all.
Yeah, no, I think that's true, and I think offering something would be great, because then at least people can say yes or no if they want it, or they then may be able to say, actually I don't want this, but I want that. I think one of the challenges I think that we have now is that because so many people who live in England and also live in other countries, but so many people live in England and their families are from elsewhere, and a lot of their families live elsewhere, either elsewhere in the UK or overseas. So the practicalities of providing that support are really complex.
It's tricky.
Yeah, and I was aware of that because of my family living in different parts of the world. So, the most that I could do was just keep sending emails and sending texts.
Yeah, the communication is important.
And yeah.
Here's an idea, I'm just thought of it right now. But what about peer-to-peer support, caregiver to caregiver, family member to family member? I mean, I know it's hard enough to set up the core one that we were talking about earlier, but in an ideal world, why not have family members who've been through it, who are quite inspired to give back, who are willing to buddy or speak on the phone or Skype with new family members whose partner has been diagnosed.
Yeah, with the project that I was involved with, that there were volunteers.
There was an option for that.
Yeah, there were volunteers who were involved who were like me, who'd had a diagnosis of cancer, and then there were other people who cared for.
So there
people.
were carers in there in that sense. But were there caregivers and family members ringing in, as in needing?
Yes.
So they could be matched.
Yeah. So people could, and the matching wasn't. It could be. A cancer diagnosis to cancer diagnosis or not. It could be somebody saying, my partner's just been diagnosed and I don't know how to deal with this.
Yeah.
Can you tell me what it was like for you? And that might help me deal with the situation with my partner. So it wasn't exclusively, I wasn't always exclusively talking to somebody who'd had a diagnosis of cancer.
I see.
And certainly not speaking to people who'd exclusively had the same cancer diagnosis as me.
Okay.